It was in the deep forests of Northern California, not far from the shadow of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where a group of 5 college friends decided to camp for the weekend. The kind of place where the air smells like damp earth. The trees rise so tall they blot out the stars, and silence feels heavier than sound. And on their second night, while sitting around a flickering campfire telling ghost stories, one of them noticed an old trail leading away from their sight, almost hidden beneath twisted branches and a carpet of dead leaves. And curiosity, mixed with that dangerous thrill of being young, pushed them to follow it, even though the forest around them seemed to grow unnaturally quiet, as if the crickets and owls had agreed to hold their breath. The path led them to the remains of an old cabin, burned down decades ago, the air thick with the sour stench of ash, even though the fire was long gone, its blackened wood still standing in twisted angles, like the ribs of a rotting carcass, and carved into the scorched doorway were strange symbols. Sharp, jagged lines that seemed to twitch in the corner of their eyes whenever they looked away. And one of them whispered nervously, "Probably just kids messing around." But another shook his head and muttered, "No, this is old, older than us." And before they could argue, a sound came from inside the cabin. A hollow knock, like knuckles against wood, though there were no walls left to knock on. And as their laughter turned uneasy, one of them swore she saw movement in the shadows inside, though the cabin had no roof, only a gaping hole that let in the pale moonlight. Then it came again, a different noise this time, a low dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the forest floor. And one of the boys turned sharply, only to realize it wasn't coming from the cabin at all, but from the trail behind them, the same path they had just walked. And when they spun around, their flashlights flickered violently, as if the batteries were dying all at once, plunging them in and out of darkness. And in one brief flicker they saw it, a tall, impossibly thin figure, limbs far too long, its head dangling to one side as if its neck had been snapped, its mouth hanging open in silence, even as the dragging sound grew louder, echoing inside their skulls instead of the forest, a noise that made their bones vibrate and their stomachs twist. And one of them whispered, "Do you hear that breathing?" Though no one else was breathing that hard. They bolted back to camp, stumbling and tripping, and when they finally burst through the trees into their clearing, gasping for air, they froze, because their tents had been shredded open, not torn like by animals, but sliced clean, as if by knives, and in the dirt between them glowed a single line of those same strange symbols, smoldering like red embers. And the smell of smoke filled their noses even though the fire was nearly out. One of them hissed, "We need to leave." Now, and they packed in silence, hands shaking so badly they dropped their gear, but the forest seemed to twist as they walked, every path turning back on itself until, without realizing, they stood again before the same burned-down cabin, its doorway now glowing faintly, the figure waiting there in the shadows, its head jerking in tiny, unnatural movements. And when one girl whispered, "It's waiting for us," the figure tilted its broken head, and something whispered back, mimicking her voice perfectly, "It's waiting for us." And before they could scream, the fire they had left behind at camp roared to life on its own, flames rising through the trees, though no one had lit them. And the dragging sound began again, closer this time, circling them, brushing against the leaves, against their shoes. And as the final flashlight flickered and went out, one of them cried, "Don't move, don't move." But in that suffocating blackness, the only thing left were their screams. And some say if you ever camp near that part of the Sierra forests, you'll hear the dragging too, just beyond the tree line, waiting for you to follow the trail.